It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to a brand new month. Yay! I'm Brian Afolabi Brown. Welcome to the show. As always, I have the ladies. Hello.
Excellent morning.
Good morning. It's a new month.
It's a new month.
Wow.
It's my husband's birthday month.
Oh, nice. Fantastic.
Yeah. How
So,
you doing?
any big, well, I can't say any big plans.
No, there's no plan.
But they might release also.
Even at that, do you want to start doing a party? When do you release
You want
people are looking for money. You have fees lined up waiting for us. You know,
Right. So how you doing?
I'm good.
I haven't seen you in a minute. You and Takwe, we're not
Yes,
seeing you.
I haven't seen you well. I'm good. I'm just, so I said that the pandemic is a challenge to everybody and it would be unfair to my personal development if I don't do something this period, if I'm just going to sit down and wait for the lockdown to be lifted and we go back to normal, which I don't think there's going to ever be our former normal again. It's a new normal. So I decided to enroll in some online courses. I'm doing that. I'm mapping out strategies for my business. I just want to be prepared. The scripture says time and chance happen to them all. You don't know when that opportunity will come. So instead of just wallowing in, I'm bored, I'm depressed, it's not working, find something to do in the interim. Anything can just happen.
We trust you. We know you. You're good at stuff like that. So we know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And when it does, we'll all celebrate with you. Topsy Tops, the whole week gone. What happened? What did you do over the week?
She was busy.
As in, oh God.
It was a good break.
You know, like God is wonderful. That's just what I can say. So I'm very grateful to God for May. May was loaded for me and it was loaded for good. It was my birth month and God showed up. So on Saturday, I had the confidence webinar.
Yeah.
And it was the feedback was fantastic. My husband was like looking at me like, you're a magician. Yeah, like that. When he saw me putting it together, he said, "Will people pay for a program inside this COVID where there's free course everywhere?" I said, he said he didn't say it, but like he was just thinking that will people pay. I was just thinking it in his mind that anyway. So I just felt in my mind that I'd put too much effort into the course material that I could have broken it down into 3 sessions. It was 3 hours, 30 minutes. And people waited. Whoa. I had 30 registered people and 24 people were with me till the end. Like till I left the meeting room, they were there and they were complimenting, they enjoyed, they had fun. They are even saying the next one, they want to be there and all of that. So I'm like, don't excuse of society, what is going on. Everybody is saying nothing is happening and you don't use that one to hold yourself back from doing what you want to do. Just do. Nobody will pay, but you will still do. Yeah. And you would have known that you tried. Because if I never tried, I would have I wouldn't have known that some people would pay. And also in the last month, I started a platform on Facebook where we do free trainings for people, Canva, all of that. Today, the 1st of June, we are doing free public speaking training for people that want to learn.
Awesome.
And if you are interested, I'm not even the one teaching. I brought my Egbo, my Oga, to come and teach because I cannot talk beside this person. He's a good public speaker and he's doing it free. So there'll be free things and there's paid things, but we must all keep on doing something to improve
ourselves.
I'm telling you, this is the time to improve and find your area and do it well.
Yeah,
you know?
I saw you dancing and balling. As like you were so prepared for yesterday's live.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, Ryan is really enjoying
I was in
this.
transit. I couldn't join.
Can you imagine?
How was it?
Yeah, it was good. It was interesting.
I was excited.
A lot of people, I think she earned people's respect.
Okay.
Yeah, because people just saw that, okay, this lady actually has much more than we see. And it was a good interview. She liked it, and I'm happy that it was a good one. But I have to acknowledge my Aburo. He named his daughter on Saturday. I missed the naming ceremony. They sent a Zoom invite. I was in school. I mean, every Saturday I'm in school, and unfortunately I had a test. Okay. So at the time where the naming was going on, I had to. So Tunde Adeshokon named his daughter on Saturday. And that's
congratulations!
Congratulations to Tunde. God bless you, and grandma and all the family members. God bless you all. It's Monday. Yes, so much happening.
So much.
Oh. This Justice for Uwa and Tina is a really painful update. I will talk about it after the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're going to start with Punch today. States to handle cases. NMA demands compliance from churches and mosques. PTF says Nigeria approaching phase 2 cases as they pass the 1,000. Ogun doctors strike politically motivated and irresponsible, says Abiodun. Outrage as hoodlums rape, kill Unibem undergraduate in church. Lagos shortlists 9 contractors for 4th mainland bridge. There'll be a baby boom in childbirth, say in 2021, says Pastor Adeboye. Air Peace evacuates 312 Indians, hails Israel and China. IPPIS FG lost 800 billion naira paying ASU, says Ngige. Okay, let's take a few stories there. Let's start with the major headline, NMA.
Yeah. So leading health unions, we have NMA there, and we also have the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives are all torn between, are we really prepared to ease the lockdown and let the religious bodies, let the churches and mosques resume normal services. So some are saying that they think that the churches and mosques are prepared for this. Others are saying they are not so prepared. So the government has a lot to do in sensitizing the people, ensuring that they follow the guidelines for the reopening of their services, making sure that they observe the social distancing. There must be face masks used.
In addition to that, BC, one of the highlights of that article is the fact that the PTF was very clear. 60% of the 10,000 cases we have come from only 20 local governments. What that means is that the problem is now ours. The people, the states must begin to take ownership. And so if you are a state, you're saying you want to ease, go and ease you are the one handling, because these communities are within your own state. So everybody now must take responsibility within their communities, the religious leaders, the local government chairman, all the various local, everybody must begin to see that this is their problem. PTF is saying that the NCDs, the federal government, we've guided you to this point. Our job now is just to supervise what you're doing. So which I think makes sense. Any other story, Ogun State?
The governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, says that the strike being carried out by the resident doctors in the Olabisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital was he said it is politically motivated and is of the opinion that this is not the right time with COVID-19 for them to be demanding hike in their pay. So I was trying to see if he was going to accuse anybody, but he said, I find it difficult that at the time like this, when we are all putting our thinking caps on, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it, any set of people will be irresponsible, requesting a wage increase. And this set of people are the same set of people that we have entrusted with our health to, at a point like this, I am very disappointed. So we'll need to hear, they spoke up, they already spoke up last week. That was when they gave the ultimatum that if you don't give us this, what we demanded for, then we'll go on strike. But the government is saying this is in bad faith, and this is not the right time to do it.
Moving on now to Daily Sun, very quickly. Umar to Buhari, belong to all, fearless retired Army Colonel writes President on state of affairs. Lagos moves to reopen own economy. Pastor Adeboye foresees baby loom after lockdown. Zenith emerges best Nigerian bank in global rating. Al-Majirai will defend our land via Igbo youths. And NDCC group presses for autopsy for the executive director's suspects foul play. Okay, the major headline here.
Yes, so the former military administrator of Kaduna State, Colonel Abubakar Umar, has wrote an open letter to the president saying that this is a time for him to show that he belongs to all of us by making sure that his appointments are not just favoring one particular ethnic group or one particular people, that this is what really causes divisions and war when some people feel that they are being marginalized and others are just the ones getting everything. There's a particular position he was appealing to the federal, to the government, to that's the Court of Appeal Justice Monica Mensem, who is the most qualified at the moment, saying she's been there acting and for over 3 months, and there's no sign that she will be appointed to that position. That this is the time for the president to appoint her to that position, to prove to people that you are not just appointing based on
nepotism.
Nepotism.
I really like this quote. He said, "Mr. President, I regret that there is no kind or gentle words to tell you that your skewed appointment into the offices of the federal government, favoring some and frustrating others, shall bring ruin and destruction to this nation." I think that captures everything he said. Another story in Sean?
Yes, on a lighter note, the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God yesterday was speaking concerning the COVID-19, saying that the lockdown would bring in many positives, and that all the pastors are resting now. He's busy. And that in the next few months, by the early 2021, there will be a lot of naming ceremonies. Pastors will be going from house to house to do naming ceremonies. But he also acknowledged something that I think we should always highlight, in that there are many cases of recovery. He said this is amazing.
Exactly.
That people are recovering at that rate, and we don't highlight it enough.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, this is Almaja right now. I didn't want to take the story, but I mean, they said the Igbo youths are saying they will defend their land. Almajara are children going to school. Usually. They are those migrating. They're different from the Almajara. So sometimes I think
it's
we interchange
misnaming and misconception. We need to understand what Almajaris are, and we need to understand the youths that are being transported. Yes, who are migrating.
What they call Almajaris are the children that are schooling with in Muslim homes. Under the custody of the
Islamic scholar,
under an Islamic scholar, but they beg to fend for their living. So they're usually on the streets begging. So that's.
So you are defending your land because I'm. So we need to
define. So we expect that the Igbo youth that wrote this, that sent this article out, should define who they are defending their land against. Clearly.
Okay, The Nation. Federal government hands over COVID-19 battle to states. Tinubu to governors. Primaries crucial to democracy. Government to invoke labor law on lecturers. Tension in Senate over 2020 budget. Policeman kills colleague in shooting spree. Okay, which stories are we taking here?
Yeah, let's take. So, yesterday. The former governor of Lagos State, the Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu, I don't know what's the title.
Received.
Yes, Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu received 9 governors. He received the governor from Kebbi, Kano, Lagos, Ondo, Osun, Edo, and Jigawa. They were all coming to ask and seek the approval of a direct primary for the 2 elections about to take place in Edo State and in Ondo State. Particularly in Ondo, they have a case where about 10 other APC stalwarts want to contest against the current governor, Akeredolu, who is going for his 2nd term. And their desire, they've even asked the president to give the sitting governors right of refusal to say, we don't want to contest, but if they're contesting, they should have the automatic ticket. The reply from the Asiwaju is that we must entrench politics. We must entrench internal politics and democracy within the party system. So the primaries should follow, and that we can't overlook primaries. So we're likely going to have. Okay,
Tokwe, I know you get excited about this political conversation, but let's move on to other things. But we'll see how it turns out. Want to take another story?
Yes. Yeah. The police inspector Monday Gabriel yesterday was arrested because he went berserk after killing another officer, and then when he shot him, he got into his car. He was driving. I think the van stopped somewhere, and he came down. He was knocking at houses. He was shooting. According to an eyewitness, said he shot about 150 bullets into the air. They were able to recover like 36. By the time they held him down, he was screaming, "I don't want to be polluted in the name of Jesus. Take me home to Jesus." So they had to get him down. They are planning to evaluate him mentally, saying that he's showing signs of depression. So, but then they've taken the colleague who was shot dead to the mortuary and all of that. I think we need to really start evaluating the people who we give guns
on
to.
A monthly we need to, weekly basis.
We should have like a
basis.
Training where they come. Psychologists are taken into the police stations to talk to these inspectors. A lot of them are going through things that we know nothing about, and we expect them to protect the lives of our people. It's terrible.
I've been following Asu's story for a very long time, and there's an update. So the the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, is speaking up concerning the ASU, saying that they have no right to go on strike and that nobody can dictate to the federal government how they want to be paid. So, and another thing he mentioned was that there's 800 billion naira debt from the ASU, from the universities, concerning their payee, that the payee, what they remit to the government, is not representative of what it should be. He also mentioned that based on what WHO has advised, he called for a Zoom meeting and that the members of ASU did not show up. ASU now replied him that he is not a reconciliatory person, that his statements do not prove that he wants them to reconcile, and that he said that they submitted petition concerning vice chancellors that were corrupt, and he did not deal with them. He's now generalizing his opinion concerning all ASU, that he should deal with the issues they've raised with him. Vice chancellors that are corrupt, he should deal with them, and that he also mentioned that he should prosecute those that he's accusing have double pay. So instead of just saying blankets, everybody is collecting, there's corruption, prosecute those that are corrupt, deal with people one-on-one, but don't blanket everybody as being corrupt. So.
Our final paper, Daily Trust, APC governors back Obaseki for second term. Financial autonomy, we must comply, presidency tells governors. And power firms lose 366 billion naira to tariff hike postponement. Who has the financial autonomy?
Yes,
I know that
yes, I think we're talking about it today as well. So the presidency is saying that it's not going back on its decision to implement the newly signed Executive Order 10, which grants financial autonomy to states, legislature, and the judiciary, saying that this act was actually passed in 2017, but it wasn't implemented. So now they are setting up committees that will handle the implementation, and it must be implemented. So,
okay, on that note, we end Front Page Review. When we come back, we'll discuss this matter, justice for Uwa, justice for Tina. These are cases that happened over the weekend, and a lot of Nigerians have been talking about it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So there is an outrage in Nigeria following the gruesome killings of the 22-year-old student Iyana-Oworo and Tina Ezekwe. According to the reports, Tina was shot dead by 2 police officers on the 26th of May in Iyana-Oworo, while Uwa was brutally assaulted, raped, and died afterwards inside a church where she went to study in Edo State. Now, right now, the U.S. is also, that's a different issue. U.S. is also undergoing the brutality concerning the killing of a man called George Floyd. And we see Americans on the streets also protesting this killing. We'll come to that a bit later, because obviously we have Nigerians abroad. We have Nigerians who watch this show abroad, and we're also concerned for their safety, concerned about what their own position is on this outrage going on in the U.S. So we'll come to that in a moment. But first, I'd like us to take in calls concerning what's happening here locally, which is the issue of Uwa and Tina, who died prematurely. You can call us on 070-80-668-014. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourVTVC so we can read your tweets. Okay, so Tina, I'm told that a few arrests have been made. We have some updates from the police, which we're happy about. We just hope that this, amongst many, have happened. We don't know how far these other cases have been able to be resolved, but we're happy that this is moving forward, and we just hope that these people indeed are the culprits and will be brought to book. But in your view, let's start with the Tina story. When you read that story, what came to mind? I mean, it's not something that we're not used to around here, but a young 16-year-old girl.
It still breaks your heart. No. Tina is not 16, Tina is 12. Uwa is the one that is older.
22, yeah.
Yes. A 12-year-old girl getting raped, gang raped by multiple men, no matter how
Tina is 16. There's a different story in Jigawa. That was another person. That's a 12. There are 3 stories, actually.
Yeah, 3.
The other one, she was raped, but then when she was able to report to the police, they now found out she actually lived with other 11 people, so they've been arrested. So that's a different story. And we're happy that down in Jigawa State. Yeah. This Tina is actually 16 years old, and it was Iyana-Oworo. But go ahead.
So for me, we discussed this, like we've been 7 years on this show, and there's been several cases of this thing happening, but we can't brush it aside. It just takes a bit of our humanity. Every time, it's heartbreaking. And I think that as many times as we talk about this, I still feel there's a whole lot that the government can do. There's a whole lot the government can do in terms of posture towards being a deterrent for these things from happening. So as a society, we haven't really stood up and say, we campaign no to rape. There are many times they've done walks, no to rape, but we haven't, as a society, created such a huge deterrent for rape that will make no one think of it. We haven't created a scapegoat system where there is a record profile of everybody that has been convicted for rape, and the punishment was so gruesome that nobody would even think about it. We haven't campaigned enough concerning how we should punish men and not victimize and punish the girls that get raped and shame them. So until we are able to do that decisively, we'll still be having saddening news like this.
You see, let me come to you concerning this matter, especially the Uwa case, obviously.
I had to really think deep, and I was trying to, because it's happening all over the world. It's not just Nigeria. We have outside the country, we have men who are being molested. We have racism out there. We have when did we just finish talking about xenophobia and all of that? We've had cases where, and I think we're forgetting to be humans. We are beginning to forget what it is to be a human being. A human being being that you have a superior mental ability compared to animals. And even the animals in their kingdom, they show kindness to one another. We have gotten to that place where we no longer recognize one another as ourselves and we don't show love. How can you? Somebody went to church to read. At least the church is supposed to be a safe place. It's possible there was no light in her house. It's possible she was living in a one-bedroom apartment and her siblings did not let her read or something. And she went to a church. Growing up, I used to go to churches, a church compound. I used to go to the library, lonely places so that I could read. And this young girl was raped to the point of death inside the house of God. And we sit down and call ourselves Christians and Muslims. I really don't know, but I think it's not just for us to pay lip service to this. The government will do what it will do, but we are the people. It's not the government that raped this girl.
Exactly.
It's not the government that's raping these children.
Thank you very much, for taking
We are the people.
I know that the RCCG, being a responsible organization, have actually sent out a press release acknowledging that she was a member of the choir. She did go to church, and she's actually been going there to read. So, as a choir member, they know you. But there are a few questions. There are a few questions that I mean, they said that there was a police officer who was resuming. I mean, not police officer, the security guard.
Official, okay.
But securities don't resume. They actually hand over. So somebody goes and then you come in to replace the person. So who was there before that security guard resumed? Who gave her the key? We've not even asked these questions. Where did she get the key from? So at some point, I mean, I know the police are going to be investigating, but the point that there are more people around this that we've not mentioned in this story. It's quite
another thing that was very worrisome was the comments on social media. So social media, people were glorifying, oh, what is she doing in the church? I'm like thinking, who can write this with your name? Like your name was there. You wrote it down that somebody that got raped and that died from being raped, you were asking what she was doing there. As a society, that's why I said that, okay, yeah, the government will do their own part, but the society, we all need to wake up to the fact that we are responsible, we are our brother's keepers. And it could be your own child tomorrow, it could be your sister tomorrow, it could be your mom. We don't know who it will be. So we can't be questioning what she was doing. Why is she there? At what time of the night? Did she tell anybody? Was she there alone? Did she not know that it was dangerous? But people were saying that if they ask you for sex, give it to them. Don't let them rape you. People were typing, human beings were typing it down. One person even said she had raped several people. So for me, at the end of the day, I'm thinking, what's the mindset of these people that are saying these things? Because obviously it's a reflection of those that raped this girl. And as long as we don't deal with that mindset as a society...
You know, thank you for taking us there. I have a call, Abdullah. I'll come back to what you just said. Abdullah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
In fact, I love this program.
Thank you, sir.
In fact, I just want to say hi to
Thank you so much.
everybody. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your call. Now, what is most heartbreaking is some of the tweets, I think it was Mariam that sent it to the group, and it was really painful that someone was accusing her of, why did you go to church in the first place? Others were saying that, my advice for girls is that if they're raping you, just don't fight it.
Somebody said, don't wear pata.
There are human beings in this country that are tweeting this.
Yes.
So what that tells us that there are human beings that actually feel that she got what she deserved because she was at the wrong place at the wrong time and she had no business being in church.
Fighting.
And that's an issue I think that we need to discuss.
Morayo.
Because there's a young girl that lives in my house that says that acknowledges that she does go to church to study when she needs that quiet space. When we were growing up, we had libraries. Unfortunately, there are no libraries. How many libraries do we have? So a young person wants to study, and it's not everybody that waits till school starts to read. Some are actually bookworms. Some actually love knowledge. And now that there's lockdown, they're using this time to study.
To read, to prepare themselves.
So if you're the type that waits till school starts to read, that's you. But this young lady was doing the right thing.
It doesn't even have to be reading. I used to go to church just to pray alone. While I was in school, I was going to the chapel and I would pray. I'm the only one. I just wanted to pray. It wasn't, I didn't want to go when they are doing regular prayer meetings or sessions because I wanted my own time with God and I wanted it in a quiet place. So there's just no justification.
Right, go ahead.
What I see is that the traditional systems have failed us. The system of success, meaning power over somebody else, money over somebody else. And that's why people are fighting. Those men, in their minds, we have the power to do this and we can get away with it. The police officers who are, you know, firing and killing people anyhow, we have the power, we can do this and get away with it. Nobody's thinking of the other person. And that is where the problem is, because the truth is the society is now like this. There is no safe place for anybody. It's not us today, it may be us tomorrow.
You see, you know what worries me the most? Somebody had the audacity to enter the house of God. You know how we make the house of God is this sacred place that once you enter like this,
the Holy Spirit is there.
The Holy Spirit is there, and it's totally disturbing. I mean, it demobilizes everything that is negative in you. But now you enter and you can actually rape.
Tell you that human beings have lost the respect of being humans. So now nobody cares. Nothing matters anymore. Those things we used to hold dear before. It's the house of God, though. Don't make so much noise. Nobody cares anymore. That tells us that we need to do more than what we are doing. This is not about religion. We need to start teaching people, go back to raising our children again on how to be human beings. So loving your neighbor as yourself, just like Christ preached.
Okay, let me take this call from Daniel. We're going to wrap up with this because I'd like to bring in yeah, Daniel, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks for calling. Reduce your TV screen, please.
Yes, sir?
Reduce your TV screen. We can't hear you. Okay, I'd like to cut that off.
May I quickly say that they have the youths in that town have gone to burn the church. So you see, we are jumping from fry pan to fire, actually. Are we using violence to fight violence? Why are they burning the church? Is it the church members that carried out this act on the on that girl? So people just sit down and feel...
My producers are saying that story is not verified, so we're not sure about that
I
yet.
saw it in the news this morning. Okay. I saw it in the papers this morning, yes.
Okay. So for me, at the end of the day, I feel that we will go to parenting, we'll go to community parenting, because all of us have a responsibility. As a child, as a mother, I have 3 boys in the house, and the quarreling with this lockdown has been off the hook. Fight over TV, fight over remote, and I understand that I have the opportunity to teach them to sacrifice for one another, to understand that you can get aggravated. You can feel the emotion, but you must not execute on that emotion. So you feel like punching your brother, you feel like fighting another person, you feel like raping somebody, you feel like having sex with somebody. Every emotion must not be expressed. Your ability to control your emotion is your humanity. That's what makes you a human being. It's not that if everybody cannot just do everything you want to do, your ability to control your emotion, to decide that I am a proper human being and I can do only what I want to do, makes you a human being. People who don't qualify to be human beings are treated as insane people and they are locked up. So anybody raping, and we said it over and over again.
It's a mental health issue.
It's a mental health issue and it's incarcerated and locked up for life.
Anita, are you there?
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Very clearly. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Like my contribution, I would like to say pertaining this rape issue. You know, we women, the way they handle things in this country, even though if you said police to take, hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Like, if the case even goes to the human rights of police, at the end of the day, because the person is from before home, that case will be closed. So, like, to me, like this girl, the one that happened in Benin, my prayer that the government should take.
The governor has spoken up concerning it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
The corporate should come out. They should find the corporate that takes.
I know the governor, just like you said.
The governor has spoken up concerning it. There was a research done by our reporter here in TVC, Bukola Samuel, and she did an extensive report that I watched on TV showing how the lapses within the system, our police system, and how some cases that there were proven cases of molestation, child abuse, rape, escapes through the system, maybe because somebody is powerful, somebody pays their way through. We mustn't have those kind of things happening. The IGP must speak up concerning this. The commissioner must speak up concerning this. There needs to be a strong system that closes up on people that do these kind of actions.
Okay, we have to go. Okay, so we have to wrap up on this. This morning we just wanted to lament because a lot of Nigerians are lamenting. But what's more important is that justice is served. So is served.
And we're going to
we're going to continue to monitor this and ensure that these children do not die in vain, and that those who have caused this will be brought to book. Let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So days after President Muhammadu Buhari called for debt cancellation for needy countries, he has sent another letter to the National Assembly for another foreign loan request and has sought the approval of the Senate to an external loan of $5.5 billion to fund the revised 2020 Appropriation Act. Joining us is a renowned expert and security and legal economist, Dr. Charles Omali. Good morning, sir. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, sir.
Right. So let's go right to it. When we heard about this request, a lot of Nigerians were worried. Worried because obviously we're asking for some kind of an ease in debt payment internationally. And at the same time, we seem to be asking for more loan. But what is even more worrisome for me personally is that when you talk to economists like you, they continually tell us that we have to spend out of recession, that you cannot not spend. And that for me is confusing as a layman. Could you help us understand why there is a need to get this loan, if you think we should get this loan in the first place?
Well, thank you very much. Well, as a principle, every country on earth right now, at least most countries, are actually borrowing because the COVID pandemic has an effect on the economy such that the governments have to borrow. For example, if I use UK as an example, the United Kingdom government borrowed in April more than they planned to borrow for the entire 2020. So that shows you that borrowing, in the US, they are borrowing too. So in principle, borrowing in that sense, in this kind of economic difficulty or turbulence, is not itself a problem. I think the problem we have in Nigeria is that this is following a trajectory of other borrowing since 2015. For example, the UK example I gave, if you look at the same period, the United Kingdom government have been borrowing less and less and less in the last 10 years, such that prior to COVID, they actually borrowed the least they've ever borrowed in a long time. So now that they are borrowing, it's clear that they are responding to a shock in the system. But in Nigeria, borrowing seems to have become part of the annual budget cycle, and that is the problem, that this might be one borrowing too many.
Yeah, so, sir, I think about a few weeks ago, we heard that the president planned to borrow about 850 billion. Is it billion or million now? Billion, yes, from the capital markets, which was internal. And we're happy about it, at least. That will reduce the interests and the debt servicing we are supposed to be paying. External debt servicing. So now we are going back again to continue with the foreign loans. Where does that leave us? Is there any plan you see in place on how we plan to service the loans that we are getting? Or are we just going to, how do we borrow out of this and borrow out of, paying for what we have borrowed? Are we not selling our future? I don't know.
Well, the difficulty is, in the letter that the president sent to the National Assembly, there were three reasons the president claimed he needed to borrow for. Number one, which is finance 2020 budget deficit, which I think everybody understands that because the price of oil that's gone down. Number two, financing critical projects. And number three, supporting some states of the federation. Now, the first two, in terms of the financing the budget and financing critical projects, those two headings are the two consistent reasons for all the borrowing since 2015. The supporting the states is probably a new one in that sense. But the key point here is, there's a history here. The National Assembly they don't have to grant the president all that he asked for. In the 8th Senate, for example, in the 8th National Assembly, the president asked for $30 billion. When the Senate asked for breakdown, they found that actually we don't believe, you need this money. Much. They approved, I think, just over $6 billion of it, and then they didn't approve the rest. So on the 23rd of in the 9th Senate, on the 23rd of November last year, the president now wrote to the new Senate, to say, okay, the remaining 23 billion from the 30 billion that your colleague in the previous Senate did not approve, and now wanted to approve it. Now, of course, the Senate approved it, and then, of course, it's still, waiting the approval of the House of Reps. But the key point I'm making here is government can ask for X. It's within the powers of the National Assembly to scrutinize what needs to be borrowed and reduce the approval appropriately. From my own analysis, in terms of the 5.5 billion that government wants, the element of it, which is just over 50% of the budget of the loan meant to finance the 2020 budget, is a legitimate request given the shock in the oil prices. That I can understand.
Okay.
But the other two, in terms of financing critical projects and supporting states, I have my concern about.
They are vague.
Yeah, you got the word right. They are vague. What projects are we talking about?
Exactly.
Are they new projects? Are they existing projects? If they are existing projects, what happened to the previous approvals for these projects? And in terms of helping the states, the question is that, is it unconditional? What condition have you put on the states to actually lower their own recurrent expenditure? For example, the federal government could say, fine, we bail out the states, but you have to reduce your recurrent expenditure by 25%, your overhead by 25%, then the federal government will help you. We've seen here that there's a history here. The president, when he came in, brought in some money to help the states to pay salaries. Many of the governors just pocketed the money. They didn't pay salaries with it. So just throwing money at states that need it doesn't mean they will use it for the purpose.
Right.
So there's a basis here for government to say, if we are to help the states here, the states have to be more efficient for us to be able to intervene and help them.
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Dr. Charles Omoli with us. Yes, Dr. had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. So you've established what we know, which is that everybody spends their way out. It's essential to borrow at this time. We're shocked by the economy. But I want to ask you is, do you feel there are other options on how we can reduce our dependency on foreign loans? Number one. Number two is, when we go to these people, this IMF, this foreign bodies to borrow money, they give conditions that might be stringent on our economy. What do you think, what was the best bargaining power that Nigeria has right now, considering that our oil is no longer of huge value?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I mean, given what is happening right now, borrowing to, run the 2020 budget, I think, one has to be fair on government. There's no way anyone could have thought oil will be this low, when the budget was being, planned last year. So clearly there is an element that element of the loan needs to be supported. But the other bits is what I said it becomes my challenge. I mean, for example, if you look at the loan, about $1.2 billion of it has to do with government response to COVID-19. Healthcare system, COVID-19. So what exactly is that? That's too woolly. One secret I will tell you is this, and this has been the case, this is not just about this government, it's been the same with all governments since 1999. Whenever a government couches its program or promises in purely financial terms, it's a very clever technique they use to avoid accountability. For example, if I say we're going to spend $3 billion extra on education next year, that sounds like a good, policy.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I could have spent the 3 billion and you have no way of assessing whether it's been spent. Or what you may not realize is that of that 3 billion, 2.8 billion of it is just paying salary arrears to ASU, for example, of which only 200 million is actually new money.
Going to capital.
So rather than couching policies in tangible terms, we're going to build 500 new schools. We're going to employ 5,000 new staff. We're going to, things you can measure. Governments, since 1999, have this habit of couching promises in monetary terms. Oh, we are going to spend 5 billion. So what actually does that give us? We don't know. And that, I think, is the technique here. In terms of whether we are, what other options are there? Well, the basic option usually is cut your coat according to your cloth. In other words, government have to accept that certain projects can no longer proceed until the economy, rebounds again.
Okay.
So certain projects will have to be suspended. We have to spend within our means. But if you want to cruise along and continue with all projects as though nothing is happening, you will have to borrow.
Right.
In terms of what leverage we have against these multilateral financial institutions, we have very little. Very little. We're even lucky. They're even willing to loan us money under the current circumstance. We have zero leverage as at this time.
No, are you sure we have no leverage? Because that is a business. They are not running a charity, so they must know there is something in it for them. How do we now protect our country? Because this has happened before, where prices of everything went up, where they were told to devalue the naira, and they can now begin to impose on us economical changes that we as a government have to make. So that's why I'm asking that, how can the government prepare to balance this thing out so that the citizens of Nigeria are not under pressure being imposed by those we've borrowed money from?
What I meant by we have no leverage is that we can't dictate to them, but they can dictate to us. You have to understand that right now, like I said, every country on earth are borrowing. So really, the lenders are not short of borrowers at the moment. America is borrowing, in terms of billions, of hundreds of billions. All over Europe, the European Union just came out with is it 500 or 600 billion euro, package that largely financed partly by borrowing. So everybody is borrowing. So if you are a financial institution, you are not short of borrowers at the moment. That's why I'm saying we don't have leverage to dictate to the lenders. Okay, they can dictate to us.
Can we talk about, when Tokwe mentioned leverage, what I was thinking also, the role of the African Development Bank. We see the president fighting, obviously, for his job right now, for president of the African Development Bank. The issue happening with the U.S., pressure from the U.S. saying that it has to be investigated. And he's saying he has done quite a bit of work in the past 5 years to strengthen African economies. What can we do within? I mean, I'm trying to also echo to Tokwe's question. Is there any way we can strengthen the African Development Bank such that it becomes to be our source, not so much going out to the IMFs and to the World Banks? What can be done such that African Development Bank can be the source to help African economies begin to get more competitive, and then not just be the ones to produce the raw materials, but we develop the value chain such that we can also export
manufactured goods?
You see, people need to understand the sense of history here with African Development Bank. It's easy for us to say, why are the Westerners, interfering in our affairs? In the early 80s, when Shagari was the president, that was when the idea was, first of all, mooted for American and non-state, non-African countries to become shareholders in African Development Bank. What was pushing it at that time was the fact that almost 60% of African countries were not paying their subscription to African Development Bank. So the bank was almost going bankrupt in the 80s. So the idea was, let's bring in these non-African countries to be shareholders to buffer up the financial base of the bank. Even then, President Shagari stood his ground for 2 years. He refused to, because Nigeria is the largest shareholder. President Shagari was, for 2 years, refusing to sanction the idea of foreign actors being involved in the bank. He was eventually put under pressure, and he agreed. That's how U.S. and all these other people came in to become part of African Development Bank. But the point I'm making is they came in because African countries were not paying their dues
they couldn't handle themselves.
Bank. Therefore, the bank was going to be busted. So the issue here is, it's easy for Africa to say, why are these Westerners doing this? But we should look inward, the man in the mirror. Africa is not doing enough to safeguard itself. So when the Westerners came into African Development Bank, they came in to save the bank from going bankrupt. So we need to understand that context. That was why we now have non-African countries in African Development Bank. But on the specifics of what you said, you know, my concern with what the Americans are requesting is, what they are requesting is a procedure that is outside of the laid down rules of African Development Bank.
Sir.
And my concern is you can't begin to, you don't run institutions like that by just making up rules as you go along.
Right.
If you feel the audit system is inadequate, you change the system as a whole.
Right.
And then, but you don't, on a ad hoc basis, saying, well, let's bring in external independent, auditors, which is not provided for in the rules of the bank.
Right.
So
that for me is a major concern.
Okay.
But of course, America always have their own agenda. Anyway.
All right. So I believe that we are the solution to our problems. And if we're serious about it, we can find ways to work better and help ourselves. So why I'm saying this is, I want to ask you, what are some of the questions that you expect the National Assembly to ask the presidency when there's a request for loans? What are some of the things you expect them to follow through on before they approve the loans to ensure for accountability? Because I believe we're not serious.
Yeah.
What are some of those things you think they can do?
Well, I mean, and this is where politics come in. This is where politics come in. You see, during the 8th Senate, when the request for loan came, what the Saraki-led Senate did was they did what they call line-by-line vote.
Okay.
In other words, every single item of loan request was voted on. That was why some items were approved,
And
some were
others
not
weren't.
approved. What the current 9th Senate did in November last year when the president came, well, they did not do a line-by-line. They did a complete yea or nay vote on the entire package. Therefore, you couldn't scrutinize line by line or say, I'm approving 3, I'm not approving 4. You couldn't do that. The choice they were given is the whole package or nothing. That's a political tactics that is used in the Senate or in the National Assembly generally, depending on their disposition towards the government. Because clearly, most people will agree that some of the loan might be needed. But once you are given the choice of voting the whole thing down or the whole thing up, most people end up voting the whole thing up, so that for the sake of the bits they like. Whereas if they are given the opportunity for line-by-line vote, then they can say yea or nay to the specifics. So what the National Assembly I think needs to do is detail. The devil is in the detail. The executive needs to provide a line-by-line explanation. What actually is this for? Not that we are spending 600 million on healthcare to provide to support COVID-19. What exactly is that?
What does that mean?
What are you buying with it? What are you building with it? Specifics.
Right.
What are the specific policy you're trying to fund? So specifics should be requested. That's number one. Number two is they should look at any headline that is replication of previous headline. So if we've been getting loans in the last few years and it's under the same headline, okay, what have you been using the previous loan for?
To do.
So an audit needs to be done of how the previous loans has been expended before we know whether more money should be thrown against the same cost center. Otherwise, we could be throwing good money after bad if such scrutiny doesn't take place. That's number two. Number three, the Senate needs to make the government understand under the current circumstance, not every project has to be continued with. Okay. Some projects will have to be jettisoned because we don't have the money for it.
Right.
So, so government need therefore to show how they are being prudent in their request for loan. What projects have they decided to let go as a result of the economic situation? Yeah. And what are the priority ones they wish to continue with, as it were? And lastly, they need to ask, how are these projects going to either directly or indirectly, pay for itself, so to speak. Some might generate money directly, some might generate it indirectly in terms of its impact on the economy.
Thank you so much.
How the projects will be used to pay back the loans need to be assessed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
It's always a pleasure having you, Dr. Omole.
Much information.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with a renowned expert in security, legal, and economy, Dr. Charles Omole. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll be discussing with our own legal luminary, Mr. Femi Falana. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So recently, President Buhari has signed into law the Executive Order number 10 of 2020 for implementing the financial autonomy of state legislature and the state judiciary. According to the reports, this will strengthen the institutions at the state tier of the government and make them more independent. Joining us right now is legal expert Mr. Femi Falana, SAN. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning.
Yes.
How are you?
Good, very well. Let me go straight into it because we're running out of time. The former Deputy Senate President, Ezekwe, has said that the executive order by the president is unconstitutional. Do you agree with that?
No. The president, just like governors, are required by the Constitution to comply with all judgments of court and then the provisions of the Constitution. Whereas since 1999, the Constitution has provided for financial autonomy for the judiciary. But because the relevant provisions of the Constitution were not complied with, 2 cases were filed in court, one by Judicial Staff Union and one by Mr. Olisa Agbakoba, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Both cases were decided in favor of financial autonomy for the judiciary. Again, both cases were ignored. The federal government adjusted partly, but the state governors refused to comply with both judgments. Hence, in 2017, the provision of Section 123 was further amended to now provide for the budget of the judiciary and state legislature to be on first-line charge. With the provisions of the Constitution and the 2 judgments of the court, the intervention of the president is unassailable. So I do not agree with Senator Ezekwe.
Okay.
All right, sir, but they are saying that some states already have the appropriation law for the state legislature and the judiciary. So where does that leave the executive order if some states are already practicing this? And is it true?
No, there is no state in Nigeria that is fully complying with the provisions. And I really do not see, I can't find any basis for the hue and cry over executive order 10. For me, it was even unnecessary, you know. If there had been commitment to comply with the provisions of the Constitution and the judgments of court, you know, the executive order will have been unnecessary. But the president has the power, even without the executive order, to direct all agencies of the government to comply with the judgments of court and the provisions of the Constitution.
Right.
Okay, so breaking it down for the average Nigerian, what's the advantage of this to the average Nigerian? What does it entail? What are the benefits?
What does it entail to do what?
What does this order entail? And what are the benefits to the average Nigerian?
No, what the order is simply saying is that whereas by the provisions of the Constitution, the budget of the judiciary and the budget of the legislature in every state shall be paid from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, and that shall be on the first line charge. It is only in a case where a state government refuses to comply with that provision of the Constitution, that the President directive told the Accountant General of the Federation to the effect that the budget of the judiciary and the legislation in such a state be deducted from the source and then paid, you know, to those bodies directly.
All right, let me jump because of time.
This has not eroded the powers of the governors or the state government if they are prepared to obey the Constitution. Abuja will have nothing to do with their budgeting of court and then paying the 2 agencies of government, I mean the 2 arms of government. You know, Abuja will have nothing to do with it.
Right.
It is where
Now,
there is
let me ask you this question.
a departure from the provision of the Constitution that Abuja will come in.
Right. Sorry to cut you off. Because of time, we're trying to get as many questions in as possible. Why are the governors seemingly opposed to this independence for the judiciary and legislature? That's one. And secondly, in your view, do you think there could be a reversal of this at some point?
Well, frankly speaking, I cannot see the basis of the objections of the governors. I mean, this amendment was passed in 2017. It was not objected to by the governors. Even after the amendment had been passed, the governors publicly declare their intention to comply with the provisions of the Constitution. And it's also in the interest of all and sundry that the three arms of government are made independent so that you can strengthen the democratic process. So there should be no problem with complying with the provisions of the Constitution. I do hope that, yes, the governors have reacted. I do not speak for them. I do not know the basis of their rejection. But I'm very sure that after consulting with their attorneys general, the respective attorneys general, the governor will appreciate the need to comply with the provisions of the Constitution. And for those who really value the tenets of federalism, they should not allow Abuja to intervene. In other words, ensure that the budget of the judiciary is prepared, ensure that the budget of the legislature in the state is prepared, and once they are passed, in line with the provisions of the Constitution, ensure that the budget are put on the first line charge, so that a chief judge of a state, the Speaker of Parliament, will not go to the office of the governor to wait for hours, pleading for the release of the fund for either of the two institutions. Right. It is where a governor or a state government deliberately refuses to comply with the provisions of the Constitution that the Accountant General of the Federation may deduct the money that has been approved by the state. So there is no problem at all. So there should be no basis for any disagreement. I haven't seen any move by the president to erode the powers of the state governments in line with the principles of federalism. On the contrary, these are attempts to strengthen the executive for that term is a conscious effort to strengthen democratic institutions in Nigeria and promote separation of powers in line with the provisions, in line with the letter and spirit of the Constitution.
Okay, out of curiosity, I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, what is the judiciary using these funds for? Aside from salaries, what exactly, you would think that the reason why the state governments would rather be the ones to be the custodians of this budget is because really, aside from salaries, what else is the judiciary using money for? For a layman, they're thinking. Could you help us?
Right now, the salaries of all judges in Nigeria are paid through the NJC. Otherwise, in those days, if a judge gave a judgment against a state government, in some states, the salary will be ceased. There have been a situation where, and it's on both levels. I've handled a case before in Oyo State where the late Justice T.A. Ayorinde gave a judgment against the police. His only was ceased. It only was withdrawn. So we've always had this kind of interference with the functions of the judiciary. And it's not just about salaries alone. When the cars of judges are to be replayed, again, it takes time to persuade the executive to change their cars. And when the cars are now going to be changed, they are officially presented. The governor ceremony will be announced where the governor will call the tape, of course, in respect of cars not manufactured in Nigeria. But the point I'm making is that that is very humiliating for judges. And as far as the Constitution is concerned, once the budget of the judiciary is approved and passed by the State House of Assembly or the National Assembly, as the case may be. It is for the judges to decide if they want to buy cars, if they want to fix their doors, if they want to improve
ACs,
the courthouses or build more courts. And this time around, it has to be understood by the government, by the judges, that judges have no right, no power to spend money. The money approved for the judiciary will have to be managed by the chief registrars, who are the accounting officers
of the judiciary,
for each of our courts.
All right, we have to run
so that judges can really concentrate efforts on their primary duties of administering justice in the country.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy about this law for the legislature, because a lot of times we complain that the state houses of assemblies are rubber stamps, but because their money is coming from the state, so when you give them that independence, that they don't need to go and meet the government for approval over everything,
they can stand on their judgment.
I'm excited about that.
That's all we can take on the show. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.